If we're all good to go, Marvin, could I just start by getting your take on the temporary social media boycott that's about to start tomorrow, and how enthusiastically you support it and are behind it?
Yeah, obviously I definitely support it. I support anything that's going to try and bring about change with all the problems that obviously people are facing on social media. It's been hard. Probably the last year, especially the last 6 months, it's got worse and worse by the day. And obviously seeing the football kind of family stick together and trying to make a change. But not only the football family, obviously you've got sponsors and stuff jumping on it now as well. We've all had enough. So we're trying to make a change, and it's absolutely fantastic that so many clubs up in Scotland now are going to support it.
When you say it's getting worse, can you share with us what you yourself have had to put up with, and maybe more importantly, how that's left you feeling?
Yeah, well, only I think about a week ago, somebody made a comment on 2 posts that Livingston had put up on Instagram quite a while ago. Somebody had decided to go back on them and racially abuse me. How it left me feeling, if I'm honest, I was expecting it. I've obviously, with the role I'm now doing with the Scottish FA, kind of my stance on racism and all sorts of different discrimination towards people. I've been at the forefront of it, and I continue to do so. So I was expecting it. But yeah, I was racially abused on there. And then now people aren't even making fake profiles. I think that it had 3,000 followers, the profile. So obviously it wasn't something that just been made overnight. But, there's no kind of way back to them from social media. People are just doing it. The club reported it, and then Instagram came back and said it wasn't against, basically their code of conduct. It didn't violate any of their kind of code of conduct. So it lets you know where we're at with it, and it was quite powerful stuff what the person had written. So how these words, first and foremost, how you can write them on there, I'm not actually sure, but how Instagram can sit there and say that these things are okay, what chance have we got?
Is that the key to the issue, that the actual social media companies themselves need to take this whole thing more seriously? Because my worry would be, for example, after a temporary boycott, after 4 days, if everyone goes back to social media, will anything change?
Who knows? But we're trying anything. We're almost at desperation now, isn't it? We can all see that it needs to change. Everybody can see it needs to change. The only people that probably can change it overnight are social media companies, but it seems to be sitting on their hands. And I was thinking about this yesterday. Obviously they're not oblivious to what's going on. Obviously within their meetings, somebody's bringing up, this is happening, this is happening. It's in the national press, so they're seeing it. And the most disturbing thing for me is that these social media companies are obviously sitting in their offices and they're saying it's okay. They're not doing anything about it. So it almost says, well, we're not against discrimination of people, if it's their colour, their sexuality, their religion, or anything else. We're not against it. So they're actually for it. And that's the most disturbing thing. How are these people sitting there and actually saying this is okay? And there must be people, within the hierarchy of colour, of different religions, of different sexualities and everything else. And how must they feel? How must they feel going to work knowing that your bosses actually don't care? That's the most disturbing thing. And the government aren't, totally out of this either. They can do something about this. We saw when the Super League was coming about and they were having emergency meetings and they were going to bring in certain laws to basically stop it from happening. Where are they now with this?
So if you could get Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, the bosses round a table, what would you say to them that, in your opinion, would actually make a difference and would get some change?
Well, first and foremost, I'll be asking, why are you allowing this to happen? Because they are allowing it to happen. Let's not make any bones about it. They are allowing it to happen. Secondly, I will say, why can't people be verified? Why can't you have, if it's on Twitter, for instance, you've got a blue tick, or Instagram's like got a blue tick if you're, I don't know, classed as a celebrity. But you can have a green tick for anybody else who's decided to, load their passport or, their bank card or anything that links the account to them. So then it gives me the options. Some people might say, do you know what, I don't want to be verified. That's fine. Well, give me the option to say that if you're not verified and Instagram or Twitter don't know who you are, I don't want you commenting on my posts. You can still go around it and you can still, look at my posts. You can, like them if you want, but you can't comment. You can't message me. Give me that option. Why do I not have that option to do that? And I think that'd be the most important thing, that they need to hold people accountable for what they're writing. Because at this moment in time, nobody's being held accountable. Nobody at all. And I've heard a lot of people say, oh, well, if you don't want to be verified, you should still be allowed to use it. Yeah, you should. But only the people that follow you can then comment on their posts. I would choose that only people who are verified can comment on my posts. And why? Because I don't want to be racially abused. That's why.
And is your biggest fear that nothing's going to change?
Yeah, it is my biggest fear. It is my biggest fear. But, if I continue to think like that, then, nobody will do anything about it. I think we're showing, and it's getting stronger and stronger, that we have had enough, you know, and it might be that, you know, some people might just boycott social media altogether. You've seen some players do that. You've seen some sports stars do that already. But as I said, it's not just football this time. You know, it's all sorts of sports teams. It's sponsors. It's a variety of different people and organisations. And this is the most worrying thing, because we've all can see that, you know, enough is enough of it. But the people who can really stop it, social media companies, don't care. They've not come out and said anything. Nothing at all. I think Facebook, you know, gave a kind of throwaway comment, "Oh, we're going to look into it." Stop looking into it. You don't need to look into it. You know, people have paid millions of pounds to work within these companies, you know, and I'm giving them solutions that could be sorted overnight. You know, you don't want to change anything. Let's not pretend that. And the government as well, they need to stop sitting on their hands, because let's be honest, a lot of footballers were thrown under the bus when the start of this pandemic. You know, the boys down in England in the Premier League, oh, they earn too much money. They should be, you know, donating part of that back to help. You know, the boys up here who broke the COVID rules, and rightly so, they were punished. You know, we got told to get our house in order, but now it's time for the government to act as well, not just to sit on the fence or basically turn a blind eye. Because I haven't seen the government say anything about this, if I'm totally honest with you.
Are you tempted to quit permanently social media?
But then do I let them win? You know, the majority of people, the high percentage of people who I interact with, whoever you support, is never crosses a line, never ever. So why should I let the small minority drive me off social media? Because I enjoy interacting with people. You know, I really, really do. Whether they agree with my opinion or they disagree, it's always good to have a laugh, and it gives you kind of the release from real life, doesn't it? Just to go on there and speak to people. But it is getting to that stage. There's no doubt about it. It is getting to that stage. Or do you know what will happen? Somebody will get, you know, racially abused or about their sexuality or their religion, and you know what they'll end up doing? Taking their own life. And then you know what will happen? They'll come out and say, "Oh, it is enough now." Why do we have to wait for this to happen? Why do we have to wait for somebody to be in a bad enough mental state already to get one of these messages, to send them over the edge, and then we'll be coming out and saying, "Oh, we're going to do something about it." Do something about it now, because it's not acceptable. It's not acceptable. And at this moment in time, social media companies are saying they're not against discrimination, and the government are saying the same. And I don't care the blowback that I get from this, because I've had enough. I literally have had enough of it.
Marvin, can I ask? I'm Ivana. Hi, I'm from STV. You mentioned your role there with the SFA, your consultation role. How's that going? And given the fervour with which you're speaking today, sometimes does it feel like you're on an uphill battle?
It's going well. You know, we are trying to make a change. We're most definitely trying to make a change. And as I said, you know, the Scottish FA have pulled the clubs together to do this. But there's only so much we can do. You know, as a football society, as a football organisation, there's only so much we can do. We need help from the people who control these things. You know, but that doesn't mean we're going to stop working as hard as we possibly can. You know, I'm in constant dialogue with people at the Scottish FA. I'm in constant dialogue with other players, and we're trying to sort this stuff out. But as I said, there's only so much we can do, and the boycott is probably the most powerful thing we can do at this moment in time. But until we do start to get help, until other people take it seriously and realise that this isn't okay, and there's no time for silence anymore. Because if you're silent on it, then you're supporting the people who are, you know, sending these horrible messages, these abusive messages. There's no time for people to be silent anymore. So as I said, you know, when it came to football, when it came to finances, a lot of people were ready to talk, and they're ready to talk straight away. A lot of statements were sent out straight away. So what are you saying now when it comes to people being abused, you're okay with it? And, you know, when you think of the government, they want people, you know, who are against all this stuff to vote for them. Why should we? We've had, honestly, so many people have had enough. And it's not just black people, it's people who are against, you know, racism altogether. You know, in terms of the sexuality stuff, we've all had enough. Everyone's standing together. You know, we've had enough of these small minority of people who can go on these social media platforms and get away with the things they're getting away with.
Do you feel then the work that you're doing with the SFA, do you feel like that can have a real impact, especially on the ground level? Do you see any kind of, you're talking about feedback from fellow players, do you see any change at the moment?
Yeah, it can definitely make a change. It's making people more aware, you know, sparking conversations and some probably awkward conversations. You know, I'll give you an example. I played with somebody at a previous club, and they hadn't been around people of colour before, and some of the words they used to describe certain people, not that they were racist, they were just ill-educated on it. You know, they hadn't been around a black person before. And we had a conversation, an open and honest conversation, and they realised, you know, this isn't okay. That's fine. I wanted to sit in a room with so many people and have those conversations over and over again. You know, because some people, it is just an educational thing. Let's be honest, there's not people of colour all over Scotland or different areas. So I understand that. You know, and people are being downright racist and, you know, abusing people for their religion and all those other things. I've got no time for it. But there is change being made. As I said, it's sparking conversation, and we're heading in the right direction, 100%.
Great, that's everything from me. Thanks.
No problem.
Marv, can I just ask, the SFA statement yesterday said they were in dialogue with some of the social media companies. Is that something you've been involved in at all, just as in your role?
Yeah, it's something that's probably been going on for a couple of weeks. They definitely have been in dialogue with them, but you know, how long? These conversations shouldn't take long. They shouldn't take long at all. You know, they can get around these things. It's so easy. And why wouldn't they do it? It's because if you're asking people to verify their accounts, there's so many fake accounts on these social media platforms. People aren't going to own up to them. And what you start to realize, it starts to affect the pockets of Instagram and Twitter, because people pay a set amount of money to advertise on there because the amount of people who have profiles on there. Those profiles begin to dwindle because these people aren't real, and people aren't, you know, wanting to put their name to ones that have said racial stuff out, or, you know, sexual stuff out, or anything else out. Then all of a sudden, a spot on Twitter isn't worth as much as it was worth before. Because say, for instance, I don't know the numbers, but say there was 50 million profiles now, and all of a sudden, you know, 20 of those profiles are fake, then everything begins to change. But yeah, these social media, because they don't want to do anything about it. Let's be honest. You know, I'm fed up with them talking and saying, "Oh, you know, we're looking at things." There's nothing to look at. You know, make the change that needs to be made. We can all see what needs to be, it needs to happen.
Would you encourage? I mean, obviously, the Scottish football's come together. We've seen Scottish Rugby Union as well, and Glasgow and Edinburgh, lots of sports, and you say sponsors. Would you encourage just, you know, the members of the public as well, just to give social media a miss over the weekend as well?
Yeah, I would encourage everybody to get behind it. You know, I think that's the most important thing. It's us as people. It's not me as Marvin Bartley, the footballer, or no matter where you work, no matter what you're doing. If you're against this behaviour that we're seeing from certain individuals and they're getting away with it, then I think we should all come off social media 100%. You know, because it's strength in numbers. It doesn't matter, you know, what your job is or how many followers you have or anything like that. We all put the message across to them to say, listen, we have had enough. And let's be honest, you know, if I'm talking from my heart and I'm being honest with myself, the social media companies won't care. They won't care about it. They just turn a blind eye to it. And, you know, obviously next week when things go back to normal, they really won't care about it. But, you know, what more can we do? These are only a certain amount of things we can do, and we're trying. You know, as long as we keep on trying, then, you know, hopefully one day there will be change.
Cheers, Marv.
No problem.
Hi, Marvin. You're talking about your abuse there. How often does this come up in the dressing room?
In terms of the abuse stuff?
Yeah, how often is it talked about between the players and the staff?
You know, it's not something that I bring up to other players. You know, everyone can see what's going on. As I said, you know, they're not oblivious to stuff that's happening, but it's not something that I would openly go in the change room and start a discussion with. But if one of the boys wants to talk about it, then I would. But if I'm being totally honest, it's not really brought up in the dressing room. You can all see what's happening. We all say that we're disgusted with it. You know, every time it does happen, and you know, as I said, you know, all my teammates have had enough. It's not just the black teammates, or if you're a Muslim, or if you're a Christian, or if you're whatever else your religion might be, or your sexuality. It's every single individual. You know, I think we've got 25 professional footballers here, and everyone is disgusted by what's been allowed to happen.
David, if everybody's ready, we just heard very eloquently there from Marvin about his support for the social media boycott that's happening over the next few days. Could I just get your take on it and whether you think this is an important statement?
I think it's a very important statement. You've seen over, especially being in lockdown, I think it's heightened the use of social media and people's opinions on social media, and I've seen the effects that's had on players, my players. And it's not just the racial abuse, there's all kinds of abuse on social media. So it's definitely something we need to try and eradicate. I don't know how we do it, but we've got to start doing something to try that.
How has it affected your players and maybe even yourself? I don't know. Have you had to put up, I mean, I guess you probably have had to put up with this.
I've had to put up with it, but I've put up with a lot worse than that, if I'm honest, Kerry Dean, and I've built up a mental resilience. But I'm not a young football player. I'm like a lot older in the head with a lot more experience behind me. So I choose not to go on social media. When I do go on it, if I see something I don't like, I don't read it, but I don't let it get to me. But I've seen it affect young players in different ways. I spoke about it on Tuesday to Callum. I said, when you have a good game and young players they go on social media, it's what they do, or young girl players, and you get a pat in the back, you have a good game of football, it's well done, you've done really well, we get a pat in the back. Come Monday morning, I think that's out the player's head. He's not thinking about the positive he received from social media. But when he goes on after he's lost a game of football or he's had a bad game of football and there's fans and people on abusing him away, but whoever it is, and they're on and they're putting negative comments out, I can hear the boys talking about it in training on the Monday morning. Now that I've seen it have an effect on individuals in training. I've seen it have an effect on players the following week. they maybe go into it. So a negative comment on social media, and especially abuse, I think it has a longer term impact on certain players and what society actually thinks it does. Positives, they take it on the chin, they smile and they forget about it, but the negatives have a longer lasting effect. And I can just imagine racial abuse it's even worse for somebody, except because it's, let's be honest, any kind of abuse via social media I think is unacceptable. Any kind of abuse. So I'm all for it. I think we need to do something. When it comes to the racial side of it, I speak closely with Marvin, because I think Marvin's far more educated than myself in what will work or what can potentially work and what the club should do. So I take a lot of my lead from Marvin, to be honest.
And from the younger players that you're talking about there, what are the effects? Do they get depressed? Are they not able to play? Are they, because I guess no one knows how fragile or otherwise somebody is mentally.
That's the big one. Like we work with a psychologist at the club. We've got a psychologist that comes into the club every week, and there's a cost element to that. But I think personally, it's extremely important to look after the players' well-being. Like, I think it's the psychology side of football. It's probably a topic we don't touch on from a coaching sense. So the mental resilience and someone's mental confidence or mental well-being, you don't really talk about it as a club or as a coach. You speak about it briefly, but we've got someone that comes in now and helps the players with that. The mental resilience, their mental confidence, their mental mindset, having a growth mindset. Because I think during the pandemic, it's heightened the abuse on social media. I can understand certain quarters where the fans aren't in the stadium and they're not being able to voice their concerns, or maybe not being able to voice their concerns or boo the team. And I get all that. So they're maybe sitting in their living room, and this is their way of voicing their concerns. But it does have a big impact on the players, and especially the younger players. It does have a big impact. Luckily, I don't know of any cases within the club with the racial abuse on social media, but I know Marvin's had it in the past. But Marvin's one of the more experienced ones that probably deals with it. I don't think anybody should have to deal with it, but Marvin deals with it really well. But younger players, you don't know what they're going home carrying. They're going home, I don't know what they're thinking. They're away from the football club. So when the boys are away from the football club, I think it has a bigger impact on their mental well-being than we like to think it has, because I think it's one of these subjects that's it's easier not to talk about than talk about it. Hence why we went out and got a psychologist who comes in and works with the players on a weekly basis to try and help them.
Hey Davey, it's Vanna here from STV. I'm just going to move on to the football side of things. Is there any way that you would be backing Hibs Scottish Cup victory if it means that LIVI could claim a place in Europe?
Yeah, but I don't want to rely on someone else to do that for us, if I'm honest. Like, we got the PFA sent out the nominations for managers, and it was one of the things we spoke about. I think if Hibs were to go on and win the Scottish Cup, I think at this moment in time, Stephen Gerrard's done a fantastic job at Rangers. He's won the league title, obviously. And then you've got Callum Davidson, who potentially could take St Johnstone to another cup final. Then you've got Jack Ross, who's secured Europe, finished third, and is going to potentially win the Scottish Cup. So it would be nice if Hibs went on to win the Scottish Cup and we finished third. But I don't really look too far into that, if I'm honest, because I think the 4 teams left in that are left there on merit, and it's nice to see. I think it's the first time ever someone said that 2 National Cup semi-finals haven't had either of the Old Firm in it. So yes, it would be nice if Hibs went on and done it, but I also do think it would be good if it was someone else as well.
Excellent. And then just with Aberdeen, looking ahead to the game, with their new manager, bad result in the Cup for them, is this a chance for LIVI to take advantage? Yeah,
I take advantage. You use that term loosely because I do believe Aberdeen's got a fantastic set of players, and they've got their players as individuals will want to put that right. Stephen will want to put it right. Alan Russell will want to put it right. So they'll be probably coming here with a wee bit more grit, a wee bit more hunger, a wee bit more desire to go and pick points up with a point to prove, to be honest. So it's going to make the game that little bit more difficult. That's how I see it. That's how I think it is. And it's the same with my group of players. When you have a bad result, you always go into the next game with a wee bit more edge to it, trying to prove a point. So I think Aberdeen will be coming down to Livingston in the very same footing. They'll be coming down to try and prove a point about last week being a one-off, so to speak.
That's grand. That's everything for me. Thanks very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Davey, how's your team looking? I know Jackson went off the other week there, and Julian.
Jackson's trained, he's trained, so we've had a wee bit of time, obviously, for last Wednesday. We never played on Saturday, so the boys done very, very little over the weekend from the Hibs game, which has gave a few of them a chance to recover. So Jackson should be available for the squad, and Julian Serrano, he's back in training as well today, so that's an extra body for the squad also.
There's a lot of positives to take from your recent meeting with Aberdeen as well.
Yeah, I think we were a wee bit unlucky, if I'm honest. When you're talking about an inch, we're out the cup due to an inch, we hope he hit in the woodwork, but we took the lead twice, so there's the positives we can take from that. Obviously there's negatives as well, because we gave away that lead twice, but I think there's a lot of positives. But we're at home and we fancy our chances, whoever we're playing at home, if I'm honest. And the game plan doesn't change. We'll go out to try and pick 3 points up. I think it was one of the local journalists during the week told me that if we pick another point up, I think I'm correct in saying this, if Livingston pick up one more point, it's equalled the second best season ever from Livingston's point of view. So I think it was 45 points they finished on. I can't remember the season, but it's been their second best finished ever as a club. Now, if you throw in a National Cup final, so that's a little challenge for the boys. Can we go and pick up a minimum point? I'll try and get 3 points, obviously, but a minimum point over the next 3 games, and we can beat that record, which I think puts the boys in the status as legends in my eyes, because I think it's a fantastic feat if we can go and beat that club record. And obviously during that season we managed to get to a National Cup final as well.
Cheers, Davey.
Cheers.
Just on that, Davey, is it important that you just finish season as strong as possible? Just given, it's been a remarkable season and you don't want it to sort of peter out.
No peter out. We take every one game at a time. But unfortunately, when you're in the top 6, there's probably a wee bit more of an interest in your games because you're in the top 6, but ultimately the games are always going to be harder games. Let's be honest, you're playing against the best teams in the country. So we've had quite a tough fixture run of late. We were away to Parkhead, and we were away to Aberdeen, and we were away to Easter Road, which is 3 of the top 4 teams in the country. And bar the Parkhead game, we've been in every game, and we probably could have took a wee bit more from every game. So I don't think the season will peter out. We've got a lot to play for, and as I said there, we've got a club record to break, and that's going to be of importance on Saturday. That's one of the points that I'm going to be reinforcing with the boys. I think we need to finish 5th. We need to finish 5th, and we need to try and break that 45-point barrier if possible.
Hi, David.
I presume that game against Rangers is still in the back of your mind, potentially ending their unbeaten season.
Yeah. Well, Rangers are going to come here, so you could say Rangers have got nothing to play for, but they have. They want to go through the season unbeaten, so it's an opportunity for Livingston to be the club that take that record away from them. So there's in a game we're going away to St Johnstone, so I can't see that game being an easy game. I think the 2 teams we've been up against each other. Well, this will be the 5th time this season, so there's a lot to play for in the games that are left.
Hi, David. Finishing in the top 6 this season and with the possibility of Europe, does that alter your summer transfer plans at all?
Probably not, to be honest. No, I wouldn't imagine so. There's clubs lost a lot of money over the last 18 months, so I don't think it's going to alter any of the plans, to be honest. I'll just crack on with my recruitment that I've done the same way I've done for the last 5 years.
Thanks, David.
Right, cheers. It might make it easier attracting players to the club with the opportunity of playing in Europe, but it's not going to change the actual recruitment process.
On that theme, David, are you any further forward with extending players' contracts, that kind of thing?
Yeah, Nicky Devlin and John Guffey's here, bog standard. They're kind of automatic player extensions. They've all been lodged with the SFA. It's just a matter of Nicky and John signing the contracts. That'll get done in the next week or so. So, yeah, I don't think there's anything else here to talk about, if I'm honest. Kerridine, they 2 will get renewed. It's automatic. It'll get done automatically, although they've got to sign the paperwork. and we're working on a couple of pre-contracts just now. But I think we'll get a wee bit more traction in that when the season ends, or the Championship season ends, and the League One and League Two season ends. Players are coming away from their clubs. I think we'll get a wee bit more traction there.
Marvin's not up soon, is he? Or is he next year?
No, I'm not that lucky. Make sure that goes out in there. No, Marvin's next year. Marvin's next year. To be honest, I think Marvin's got longer left in his career. He'll probably tell you otherwise, but I look at his data every day. I watch him in training, I watch him in games, and I think he's honestly got longer than another season left in the legs, because he's still probably up there in the top 5-6 trainers at the club, going by the data we receive via the GPS. Now, Marvin waking up on a Sunday morning might tell you otherwise, obviously, but no, Marvin's got another year left.
Good man, cheers.
Right, thanks very much.